Do you remember the exact moment you first used ChatGPT? Where were you sitting? What did you ask? I bet you can recall exactly what you asked it because it probably hit you like a freight train. This is something completely different. But here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody's really talking about. Every single prompt you typed, every conversation you had, every problem you've asked it to help you solve, you weren't just using AI, you were actually training it to possibly become your replacement.
And crazy enough, Meta makes $26 per month from your data while you scroll for free. And while that doesn't sound like a lot of money, compound that across billions of users, and Meta is an absolute powerhouse. OpenAI just hit $10 billion in revenue while still losing $5 billion because you're using their pro subscriptions way more than they originally expected. And Sam Altman himself just admitted what we all suspected. Someone is going to lose a phenomenal amount of money in this AI bubble. The question is, will it be you? My name is McKay Thomason. I am here with Startup Hack. Yes, this is my father. We are the father son duo. We take our kitchen table conversations where we talk about business, tech, and finance, and we compile it all into one where we talk with you guys about what are the current tech topics, what's the current tech business AI topics, and how can you use it to get further in your career or just become more knowledgeable about what's going on out there in general. Thank you for joining me, Startup Hack.
Awesome. Thanks for having me this morning. So think again about that first time you ever used ChatGPT, right? Think about that excitement when you saw it, and then suddenly come back with this information that almost seemed human, right? But large businesses weren't just excited about AI. They're already looking at how they can use it to replace you, right? So they were paying for a blueprint of how to replace and scale humans. So today we're going to dive into some of the uncomfortable reality of how every interaction you have with AI is literally funding the development of your own replacement.
Totally. So let's go ahead and jump into this first story of are you wanting to jump into the AI
Yeah.
bubble?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
cool.
jump into that one here. And so, as always, like the best compliment you can give McKay and I is if you leave a comment down below, because we love getting the comments. It shows that you guys are listening. And not only that, we love interacting with you guys. So make sure that you leave a comment down below.
Cool. All right, so let's jump into this first story talking how Sam Altman himself, some may say that he's leading the AI charge. Sam Altman himself is talking about this phenomenal AI bubble and that somebody's going to lose a lot of money. So, what's your take here? Why is Sam Altman talking about this?
So the thing that's really interesting about this is watching Sam's story change, right? His story has changed over and over again. And it's been funny because, 2 years ago, he was talking about we're going to have AGI, everybody should be finding different jobs because everything's going to change. And then, like, all of a sudden, it's like, he's like, wait a minute, like, and this has all changed back, right? And so I think it's funny that to watch his voice change because his voice has definitely changed on this.
Totally. And it's very it's very eerie of what was the .com bubble and how we are seeing a lot of the same things happen today. But the thing today is, I don't know if this was necessarily happening in the .com bubble, but you're having what he was saying that you're having startups of 3 people and an idea receive huge amounts of money, which I mean, you would remember the .com bubble better than I would. But he said, Sam almost said, my personal belief, although it may turn out to be wrong, is that on the whole, it would be a huge net win, meaning AI in general is going to be a huge net positive. And a lot of what I've been seeing a debate about is AI increasing efficiency or is it increasing productivity? Is it helping you accomplish your tasks faster or is it replacing the person that needs to click the button? What's your take on that? Is it an efficiency enhancer or is it a complete productivity replacer?
So, and that's what's been funny about this is because Altman's tune has changed, and so has a lot of the other people. But Altman specifically has been very transparent in this, right? Because originally he was really vocal about the fact that it was going to replace humans, and then suddenly it was, well, he's going to 10x humans, and now he's even saying, like that quote there, right underneath the break there, right? Altman said it was insane how much these AI startups are getting, and how much. The 3 people like who have an idea could come up with this huge amounts of money, and he was saying that the valuations that they're getting is not rational behavior. And I think this is an interesting take because they just recently valued themselves at $500 billion, right? And 3 years ago, I don't know what their valuation was. I don't even know if it was a single $1 billion, but in 3 years, they've gone from maybe a couple $1 billion. I don't remember exactly what it was 3 years ago, but to 500x over 3 years. These are insane and not rational valuations. Most of these are going, I mean, even for OpenAI, who's saying they're going to hit a $10 billion revenue run rate this year, that would be like, what is that, 30 times revenue? I mean, that's insane.
Yeah. So with this tune, this is kind of just reminding me of another article. Sam Altman admits that OpenAI screwed up its GPT-5 launch, which is a separate kind of conversation in itself. But he also talks about having to spend trillions of dollars in their infrastructure. I want to see where. Let me go ahead and open this. Okay, let's see. So Altman said, "Whoops."
So it's go ahead.
In addition, Altman is eyeing brain-computer interfaces, a possible Chrome acquisition, and AI-driven social media, while conceding we may be in an AI bubble. So it sounds like this is also part of the same conversation. I also have seen, I think it was Perplexity put in a bid. It was kind of like they didn't get taken too seriously to buy Google Chrome, and a lot of people were like, "Hey, well, if Google's going to have to get split up, well, we want to buy Chrome." You can kind of see that being a beautiful AI vehicle. I think OpenAI would be the one to do it. Other than I don't think OpenAI would let anybody else have Chrome. What's your take on the Chrome bids that are going on?
So they're going to be forced to. The judge has already told them the Chrome is going to have to be part of the split. He said that they're like, that's not so. I don't. So it's a foregone conclusion that Google's going to be forced to sell Chrome. Now, Google's going to hold on to that with their absolute fingernails. They're not going to let go of Chrome until they are absolutely 100% forced to. So everybody jockeying is kind of a little bit of legal wrangling, kind of the same way that Elon Musk has filed suit against OpenAI. I don't think he's really expecting he'll win the suit. He's just trying to cause Sam some headache. And I think in similar type of ways, we have Perplexity and we have OpenAI and a lot of others throwing their hat in the ring. And I think it's to kind of help make some noise and to really disrupt Google a bit, because like this is all out war. You have to remember, this is an AI war. This is not like AI playing nice with friends. This is AI war. And so in these kind of wars, threatening to buy something that may or may not be for sale is definitely going to play in. And that these federal judges are going to hear this, who are doing the antitrust lawsuit for Google right now.
Totally. And why? So Sam Altman has now, you're kind of seeing him go toe to toe with Elon in terms of how much he's spending. How much? I'm trying to pull up this article. Sam Altman said that he's going to need to spend trillions on infrastructure. Is like with what we saw with GPT-5, with the nominal improvement and maybe some half step back, some may say, with the nominal improvement, is trillions of dollars of hardware going to solve? Is that going to be what's going to get us out of this AI plateau that we're in? Is it going to be hardware?
No, we've seen this story over and over again, and it's becoming this really the same story, or same book, same. I don't know. Everybody's doing the same thing, right? XAI came in with and even in their like opening slide of their Grok 4 announcement, they're like 100x times more training, right? More hardware for the training. And yet their next slide even said 10 times improvement. Now, even that ratio can't sustain forever, right? If you continue to 100x your training infrastructure over and over and over again, eventually you'd take over half the continent of the United States. And already one of the biggest problems is how much power they're going to take, right? This is the AI race is becoming an energy race because of how much electricity it's going to take. And so, yeah, it's going to take trillions of dollars of infrastructure to build this. Now, the interesting thing is we saw a similar staff up, about 5 years ago for Web3, because Web3 was going to be the next big thing. And that's what went on to fund the AI initiative or the AI movement that we have now. So everybody's already kind of saying, well, what's the next thing we're going to do with all this infrastructure? Now, I don't think AI is going to go away anymore. You mentioned earlier the dot-com bubble burst. AI is not going to go away any more than the internet did. It's just these crazy valuations are going to go away. And I hope we don't see the colossal moment. I mean, at one point, remember that Amazon lost 90% of its value. right? And 90% of its stock value was erased overnight when the dot-com bubble burst. I don't think we're going to see that level of catastrophic failure here, but we're definitely going to start seeing something happen. And part of what you're seeing early signs of this is you're seeing all of these AI groups starting to raise prices and lower value, right? It's kind of like when you go to the grocery store and you buy that same bag of chips for the same $5, but you're getting less. You're getting kind of the same thing where Anthropic is starting to squeeze you. And they, Anthropic recently moved to daily limits, right? And I've already talked with a dozen people who've complained about this, actually come to our services to start to say, hey, we need you to build out stuff for us because we're really worried that the services are going to go away or going to become so expensive we won't be able to afford them. And so a lot of our client requests right now are coming for people who want us to build AI on their infrastructure.
Yeah, it's going to be owning your own AI is going to be king, which to everybody's, we kind of talked about this a little bit last week, but knowing how to build those AI infrastructures is what's going to be the person that knows how to make the shovels to sell. That's kind of the roundabout analogy of make the shovel, make the pickaxes for the miners that want to go mine gold.
Yep.
But you have to be the person that knows how to make the shovels. That's where I think a lot of these tech positions are heading is having your own AI on-prem, having your own proprietary training models, having your own different ways to use AI. And you've mentioned it before in the past that when bubbles burst, people need to niche down. Businesses need to get away from chatbots and use real AI. So yeah, something I think that was also interesting in this article is Sam said, I do think that we will have to go public someday, probably, but he is not well suited to be CEO of a public company. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, it's not only is he not well suited, the company structure isn't of such. There's going to be so many problems that come from them trying to go public. And so him saying flippantly, well, I think we're going to have to go public someday. Their very charter isn't set up for it. Their partnership with Microsoft has things preventing it from them. Even Elon does actually still hold a piece of enough of OpenAI that he could, that he's still going to cause a lot of headaches because he knows their charter inside and out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't even thought about that. So yeah, he did say that they need to figure out a way to raise that kind of money. He said you should expect OpenAI to spend trillions of dollars on infrastructure in the not very distant future. And you should expect a bunch of economists to say this is so crazy, it's so reckless, and whatever Altman told a group of reporters on Thursday, he said, and we'll just be like, you know what, let us do our thing. So what do you take with that flippant kind of like, we're just going to spend trillions of dollars and see what happens?
I mean, eventually the money's going to run out. And I think they're already running into it, right? And so there's a couple of different things going on. Last week, as part of this announcement, they're saying they're trying to raise money because people want a piece of OpenAI so much that they're willing to sell off employee shares just because they can't really create new shares, and so they can't keep diluting the company more. So, and there's a lot of people inside who want to be able to try to make some more money. See, right now, as part of this war, we hear about Meta and Apple and XAI all trying to poach him. So the best thing he can do is make his people rich by staying, by trying to lock in their shares and keep them on there. So, and that's part of this training trap, right? Is every time you use ChatGPT, Claude, or any other AI assistant, you're providing free labor training and you're helping that company grow, because right now they've been spending all this crazy money because it's a race for the data and a race to try to get your data. That's the whole point. Is if you're not paying for it, you are the product. So if you're losing money, or if OpenAI is losing money at a $20 or $200 price tag and they're still losing money, the reason it's worth it to them is for the data, for those users, right? So OpenAI's huge claim to fame that everybody's coming back to and saying, well, they're not going to go away because, and the thing everybody falls back to is those 700 million weekly users, right? That's a number that OpenAI is wearing with a huge tag right now.
It's a Reddit post, but they're saying that one of their goals is to hit 125 billion annual recurring revenue by 2029, which would put a multiple trillion-dollar valuation on it, which would be pretty crazy. I don't know if there's ever been a business to have that much annual recurring revenue. Maybe Amazon, but it would turn into one of the new Mag 7 if they did get to that race. So apparently they did hit their $10 billion in annual recurring revenue. CNBC posted this on June 9th, which it still looks like, so like they're hitting 10 billion in annual recurring revenue, but despite that, it looks like they're still, as of 2024, losing $5 billion a year, and that looks like that's still increasing. So OpenAI, it's like you said, the money's going to run out. The question is, what happens when it does? Is it going to be, yeah, we don't know. So that, I think that's really interesting. Cool.
Well,
all right.
And in that rare moment, Thursday, Sam said, "Hey, look, someone's going to end up losing a phenomenal amount of money, right?" He says, when the bubble happens, smart people get overexcited about a kernel of truth, and that's his own words, right? It's interesting to hear him talk about this because this is the first time he's ever talked really open. I mean, he's talked about the fact that they lose money, but this is one of the first times that he's talked directly about the bubble, and so it's interesting to even hear those. Every time Sam opens his mouth, there's an ulterior motive. And so if he's talking about that, I'm curious to know what his motive is for that.
Yeah. No, he's trying to raise money. And he's trying to be the one, he's trying to, I don't know what his plan is, but he's apparently going to need to raise trillions of dollars, and he's only like, I think the White House is taking a $10 billion stake in Intel, which is interesting. I don't even know how the structure of that will technically work, but I wonder if Sam Altman's kind of trying to do something similar, and get close to politicians to be able to do that and say, like, hey, we'll do X, Y, and Z for your state or government. Because I think he already gave government employees like GPT for $1, right?
He did. And again, that's this hook for the data, right? Because right now, what GPT-5 did, where it was a colossal failure for everybody, what it actually did is they're already saying that it's winning in the enterprise. They're saying enterprise adoption since GPT-5, because they're terming it as kind of more of like an LTS, like a long-term support, right? And so part of the move to GPT-5 was to simplify the model. And a lot of what angered a lot of their users was actually that simplification of the model. But that simplification of the model is directly for enterprise. It's an enterprise strategy to try to go after enterprise. And Altman's looking at his buddies like Peter Thiel, who's running Palantir, and Palantir is driven almost entirely, their largest contracts are all government, right? And so he's trying to get in good and trying to get in those government contracts. And that was a lot of their strategy with GPT-5. And part of the reason that GPT-5 got kind of neutered a little bit because they were trying to go after these government and enterprise contracts.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart because you've mentioned that OpenAI struggles with the enterprise pool, and it looks like they're taking that head on. And I'd be fascinated to see their number of enterprise clients that they've been able to accumulate since then.
It's definitely growing, and that's one of the big things in the data that I've been reading up on is that their HR is quietly, adopting some different AI transition type plans that, they're looking through everything, and the government's watching this really closely. So
totally. Something we talked about last time, this is kind of a side tangent. We talked about the Vision Pro, and it actually came out that, like, give me a second to pull this up because I think it would be really interesting. This one, let me see. Okay, so Tim Cook said that they're working on a handful of things. Apple is, and I would be fascinated to see. Let me see if I have it here.
Yeah, Apple has started to talk about the fact that they are working on a lot of different humanoid type robots. They're saying that there's a tabletop robot.
Yeah.
That will be, they've started to talk about a release of a tabletop robot. And this could be for a lot of different things, right? So if you're thinking you're an assembly company, right, and you want to be able to assemble something, or you're packaging, right? So think of a packaging company. How many companies have to package and ship something? There's a huge swath of the internet that sells a thing, and if that thing needs to be packaged and everything, then a tabletop robot would be huge because it literally would remove a lot of that human labor.
Totally. So this is the article that came out about 5 days ago that Apple is expanding into AI robots, home security, and smart displays. I think that if they were to get into the home security realm, it would just go bonkers for the company because Apple's one of the most trustworthy products ever. And if you already have your Apple, all of your Apple subscriptions. If you could run some Ethernet cables through your house and power it by Ethernet, and have Apple security cameras, or if you could have Apple security cameras and a slightly better detection, I think that would do wonders for the company. I think it'd be a great vertical for them. What do you think?
So this is an interesting take for Apple, because Apple has been late to the AI game, and they're kind of wearing it with a badge of pride. They're saying, hey, look, we don't release things that are bad. And to them saying, hey, look, GPT-5 is okay with a 12% hallucination rate. And Apple's like, we're not okay with that rate. So what they're doing is they're throwing their hat into the ring on an AI thing that they can make near perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so you're not going to release a robot that's going to have a 10% failure rate. You're just not. So it allows them to go into a thing, whereas chat is never going to be anywhere close to the level of perfection that Apple needs it to be. And so I think what they're trying to do is build some AI thing that they can have that can be closer to an iPhone level of perfection.
Yeah. Part of this article talks about that they've obviously missed the generative AI revolution, and OpenAI may even threaten the company's home turf by developing new AI-driven devices with the help of former Apple design chief Jony Ive. Do you think OpenAI could actually compete in the hardware side of things?
I don't personally. I mean, yeah, sure, they've got Johnny Ives, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure that's great, and they might come up with something interesting. But remember, Apple, and what particularly Tim Cook is really good at, is production, right? Tim Cook, his claim to fame is he produces things. And so when Steve would have these brilliant ideas and he's going to do this, Tim was one who actually brought the reality and started shipping millions of them, right? That was
Yeah.
where his claim to fame is, and that's what he's perfected since since Steve passed away. And so this is what Tim is good at, is producing high quality things. Even while we, kind of scoff a little bit at, the Apple Vision Pro, at the same time, there's zero doubt about the build quality. There was zero doubt about the user experience. It was very good. It's just nobody wants to strap something on their head, right? And that's kind of what you came to. So in this kind of a case, now think about where AI wants to come in. He's actually kind of taking more of a play out of Elon's book, because Elon has said, look, I'm going to build a car that's going to drive you. He had a very specific niche. And now he's saying, I'm going to build a robot. And so I think this is one that Apple's looking at and goes, cool, we know production, we know hardware, like let's work on the AI stuff to improve that. Generative is essentially a cheap party trick.
Yeah. What's your take on this countertop robot that resembles an iPad mounted on a movable limb that can swivel and reposition itself, follow users in a room like a human head? It can turn it towards a person who is speaking, summoning it. It can even draw the attention of someone who is not facing it. That seems kind of like a weird product fit. Like they're trying to go for like an iPad that can basically follow you. What do you think?
Well, again, I think it's a lot of what we could use. You could make it a productivity tool, or you can make it a fun toy at the dinner table, right? A lot of people, one of the things that we're seeing a lot of people use generative AI for is for companionship, right? XAI has come out with their avatars, right? The companionship things with Ava and all them. And you see a lot of people using it. I think 1 out of 10 people using ChatGPT right now are using it for a companion type device, which is the reason why when the personality of the 4 series, like the 4.0, went away, people were devastated because essentially they lost their friend. And so I think Apple's watching this slowly and thinking, people were used to, packing one of these around. Instead, how do we, what's the next step, right? What's the next thing that can become really human attached? And that's kind of, I think, what they're looking for, because you can range everything from just cool, it's a neat party trick, to something that can sit at the dinner table with me and I can talk to you, all the way to like, hey, I can use this to actually fill boxes for me, right? And become a productivity tool. So I think it can hit a wide range of things that I'm sure they're playing to. And it's something I think they can get really good.
Totally. Yeah, I think Apple has been around the block. They've seen the dot-com bubble. They've seen just about everything under the sun. I mean, they've been public alone since 1985. So they've seen the advent of animation, they've seen computers, they've seen the dot-com bubble, the mobile phone, the iPad, everything. So I think you're right. I think they do wear being late with a badge of honor, and there is still a $3.4 trillion company and a very well respected brand. And so OpenAI is very new to this game, and they lose a lot of money, whereas Apple does not lose a lot of money.
No, everything Apple won't ship something unless it's going to make at least 50% return on it, right? There's
Yeah.
just that's been their model for years and years. And actually Elon kind of took that play out of their playbook. He's like, I'm not except for the original Roadster, which he fully designed to use to raise money. He has not shipped a car that he wasn't going to make money on, and that's been his model all along. And he stole that out of Apple's playbook, right?
Yeah.
And Apple's doing the same thing. They're looking at something they know they can build, and even the Vision Pro at the end of the day, while it was a flop, at the same time, I guarantee you they didn't lose money on it.
Yeah. No, they for sure made money on that. So I want to jump into this next segment about how much you're worth to a social media company. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to hear what you think is interesting about this. Let me go ahead and share this tab. Okay. So according to this article, you're worth about $25 a month to Meta compared to Snapchat, Reddit, and Pinterest. Why is Meta such an outlier?
Because they're an advertising machine. Zuckerberg was really interesting on this for years and years and years. Early people told him, start advertising. He was like, just wait. And he didn't start advertising until they hit almost 1 billion users. And he did this on purpose because he knew once he had the eyeballs, he had people hooked. And so they actually focused for the very first part, for the first couple of years, is what is it that makes people not leave? And they figured out that as soon as you connected 10 people to your social network, then your chance of leaving was almost zero. And so the interesting thing about that is he learned how to gain something so addictive that he did this. And now it's one of the largest advertising machines. And so, of course, he's trying to figure out how he can strap it to your face, right? He's trying to figure out how he can make it more prevalent in your life because, everybody's staring at these phones and everybody's trying to race to figure out what the next thing is. But all those eyeballs are worth a ton.
I will say I traveled with someone this past weekend who had the Meta Ray Bans, and they took more pictures with those than they took with their phone that weekend. So I can see the camera aspect of what Meta is doing. This individual, he can't talk highly enough about it. He says the AI is pointless and like he would just rather turn it off than use it. And I think if you can combine the Apple Vision, like a very, very stripped down version of the Apple Vision Pro where you can have your glasses up and you can see maybe a text message pop up, and not have your phone out. I think you might actually start to see. You've already seen. I want Apple to get into these, but he even suggested, and he doesn't normally like recommend physical products to me that often, but he's like, you should absolutely consider getting the Ray-Ban glasses just because it's such a game changer. The pictures look phenomenal. The videos are great. So I'm excited for the opportunity to have like a text message pop up or just a very, very simplified version. He actually took a phone call on the glasses, and I did not know he was using the glasses for a phone call. So I think you're going to start to see this societal shift away from everybody having their phone in their hands to glasses, eyes up, and where you're going to hear people what sounds like talking to themselves, but they're either on a phone call, they're talking to AI about something. So I'm a huge fan. I haven't used them yet. I might save up my pennies and buy a pair. But I think it's a really cool innovation that I think Mark Zuckerberg's he's on the forefront of right now.
Yeah, and everything they've been doing with and I just totally blanked on them, the Quest 3 or the Quest 2, Quest 3, right? The Quest line, OpenAI purchased I just blanked on them. They purchased the company and then have started to build out and have the Quest 2, Quest 3.
Yeah.
And so they've been adopting a lot of data. When you want to talk about data, they've done a lot of this data, but really the very first people to really do this was good old school Google goggles, right? Or the Google glasses, right? And that was super old school. And so this desire, I mean, goes back as far back as like Dick Tracy to have, spy glasses, right? And this has been around for a long time. And these aren't new, but they definitely haven't like taken a huge hit, right? I mean, a lot of people aren't wearing these. I don't see a lot of them. I know we're seeing some. I'm not saying that they zero adoption, but it's definitely a slow adoption. And so I think it's an interesting move, to partner with somebody like Ray-Ban that's a big name for this. Zuck is definitely not somebody who's afraid of taking a chance. And the thing about it is that money that you showed, those graphs, shows that Facebook has a lot to burn, right? They have plenty of money that they can burn. And so it's, I mean, that $25 per month per user means that they just have plenty of play money.
Yeah, they have 205 million users. So they're I don't even know the around 300. Let's just do that. 205 million times what was it? $25 a month.
So
So
yeah, I mean,
that
so Google, so
51
Facebook actually
billion.
has
Oh,
So Facebook's actually approaching 2 billion users. Like just, and again, users are really interesting. So when they talk about the 205, this is like a daily active user, right? Which there's a lot of different SaaS metrics, software as a service type metrics. And one of them is how many daily active users, right? So they're one of the largest out there with 205 million daily active users. So even when OpenAI uses their metric, they're actually using a weekly user. And they're saying they have 700 million. And so, they're, Facebook is saying that they have 205 daily active users.
yeah. 250 million daily active users in the US and Canada. And I think that was just the US too.
Yep,
Which
that is just US and Canada.
in just the US and Canada alone, that was conservatively $5.1 billion a month. Um,
Yep.
So yeah, I just cool. I think it's a cool. I think it's a quiet innovation. And I don't think it's like big and it's not breaking. Like it's not this crazy new thing. But I think you're going to start to see this tech get better and better. And I think you're going to start to see people go away from the phones more. I think there is an appetite to kind of put phones away and to be a little bit more in the moment because the pictures are great and you find yourself taking more pictures because you're not having to make the mental decision, do I want to take a picture or not? You just put your hand up here and it just takes it.
Well,
So
and I think what it is a desperate attempt to one, find the next thing. So we talked about Apple on their tabletop. Meta's been in the goggle thing for a long time, and people's like, we don't want to strap it to our face. So Zuckerberg's trying to move it to the glasses, right? And yes, there's a lot of pros to it. There's a lot of, there's a lot of people who just are saying, man, I want to disconnect entirely, right? And so I think what's going to be interesting to see over the next little while is to try to figure out, to watch as people continue to try to monetize our attention. That's ultimately the thing at the end of the day is that just remember, if you're not paying for it, then you are the product, right? And so in
yep.
Facebook, in this kind of a case, those 250 million daily active users, those are like that. The ability to advertise that is what's there. Now, what we haven't seen so far yet is how, an OpenAI is going to start to monetize that. Because if you don't think they're going to, like, they're absolutely going to start to monetize and figure out how do we start inserting ads, and so it's the game kind of repeated all over again, like we saw with social media.
Yeah, I think Zuck learned his lesson that this new world of the metaverse and taking a human and taking it to another place isn't very practical. It's a fun party toy that people like to play with for an hour or so, but then people go back to their lives. But this is that concept kind of upside down. It's taking a new world and putting it on your eyes while you're still in your world. That doesn't really make a lot of sense, but I think you know what I mean. It's not a fake world anymore. You're having more of an assistant on your eyes that can take pictures and things like that. So how they get ads on that will be interesting. I wonder if they'll just more go to a subscription model. And I wonder if this is what Zuck's AI talent is going to be working on.
Yeah, I think they're going to be working on a bunch of things. So it's actually just recently disclosed that Meta is actually going to split up their group, their super intelligence group or super, what were they calling it? I forgot what they call it, super intelligent group or whatever, that they're actually going to be splitting that up into 3 to 5 different groups. And absolutely one of them are going to be working on how do we infuse these into the goggles? And then flip side, how do we take these goggles and start to make money on it? The subscription model is generally not going to work a lot. And in these cases, XAI, at $300 per month for their super grok, OpenAI at their $200 per month pro model. Even Google is trying to still make money on these, and even yet they still haven't figured out how to make these profitable. So how will Zuck make it profitable? Right now, I think it's just a mad grab for users. I think it's the Wild West to try to get users.
And the interesting thing is those, unless they're connected to your phone and it uses the compute of your phone, you don't have a lot of compute on those glasses. So
Yep.
I think it'll be kind of limited in terms of what it can do. Um, but I think it's interesting.
Yeah, we'll see where they go. I mean, Meta's definitely got plenty of money to be spending on a lot of things, and that's the big thing that we've seen over and over again. Is Zuckerberg's not afraid to lose money on things. He's not afraid to spend money on things, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it's to buy your eyeballs. He wants to, get your attention, get you to, to pay, to be in that space because that's where everybody's at right now.
Totally. Cool. What else do you have? It wasn't. We've had weeks before where it's just like more and more news is coming out, but this is a little bit more of a quiet week in the tech world. Earnings have passed. But what else was caught your eye this week that you think is something we should chat about?
I think overly we're starting to see the bubble start to burst, and I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing is even us, the fact that we can't find a whole lot to talk about in AI when one of the largest AI models just dropped less than 10 days ago, kind of shows this already this AI fatigue. I think we're definitely hitting a point where we're kind of tired of hearing about AI. It's hit an adoption point that I think we've seen the peak of now. I think we're going to see it start to retract a bit. I think a lot of these companies are starting to show big numbers, and Facebook even kind of hit the same thing, right? Where it hit this peak, and then they've kind of shown growth of users, but they haven't shown that growth of daily active users. And I don't think you're going to see OpenAI show a lot more daily active users. GPT-5 showed a huge retraction of users. Most people left, but they're starting to get the enterprise. So I think we're definitely at this point of AI fatigue. I'd be curious to hear from your generation what you think AI fatigue at this point looks like.
It's more the fear of that it's going to take your job is what my generation probably thinks. Um, the fear that it will replace us, but I think it's so far from that. I think it can increase efficiency and it can increase productivity to a point. But if you rely on it and you use it as a crutch, like AI should only be there to do things faster and to check your work and to just be another set of eyes. But relying on it entirely, I think if my generation relies on it entirely, you're going to you're just going to be somebody that can be replaced by AI. If you rely on AI, that's not a very good thing. If you go to work every day and you're using AI for most of it, then um,
So, somebody in the comments here, in one of my comments here says, so, hey, I'm wondering about pivoting my career into AI, and someone's like, well, everyone's going to get hurt really bad. One of the things I would tell you is no matter what field you're in, whether it's software engineering, whether it's in finance, everybody needs to learn how to use AI. You need to learn how to use AI well, not because it's going to replace you, but because if you don't learn how to use it, the next person who does know how to use it really well will replace you. More and more people are starting to integrate it into their hiring. They're actually in job interviews asking questions about, tell me some of the 10 ways you use AI on your job. And if you come back and say, well, I don't use AI, they're literally going to end the interview right there. They're just going to. And so it's like you've got to be able to say and learn how to use AI. It's a new tool in everybody's toolbox. So I think everyone needs to move away from a fear from it. And a lot of people are really funny because they're like, you're just an AI hater. I'm like, no, I'm an AI realist. I'm very real about what it's going to do and what it won't do. And so one of the things that I would really encourage everybody who's watching to do is to dive in and start to learn how to use it and integrate it into their life in a good and safe way. One of the biggest things, to the point of what we've been talking about today, do not put your personal information into it. I can't stress that enough. If you are not paying for it, you are the product. Or even if you're just paying $20 a month, remember $20 a month is nothing to these guys. So they're making way more than that $20 a month on you. So I definitely would encourage you not to put your data into it. But at the same time, everybody needs to be learning how to use it. It is a new, powerful tool. So what I'm curious to hear from your generation is how much you're hearing this affecting education. Like, are people still going to college? Are they like, what are your thoughts around your generation and how AI is affecting education?
For me, I recently took my real estate test, and this had come much further than the last time I took a test. I passed, but the what I did was I
Congratulations, by the way.
thank you. I did flashcards and practice tests, and I had like the voice thing on, and I would read the cards out loud. And if I was struggling with a concept or vocabulary, I would ask it to explain it to me and to help me find ways to memorize it. And it did a really good job. It was like I had my own personal tutor there with me, but I was studying, doing it myself. Like it's not like it just implanted into my brain. I had to talk to it and I had to ask it questions like, all right, make me a practice question. So I think it will make I don't I think it will make the smarter people smarter, and I think it will make the dumber people dumber. I think that's kind of the best way I can summarize it.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's been a lot of talk about how it's democratizing, right? Meaning like raising everybody. But I think you're right. We're going to see those who know how to use it and they can excel themselves. So Andre Carpathy talked about how it makes software developers like Iron Man, right? It wasn't that it became the robot, it was it became Iron Man. It's human augmentation, and that's the way I think I would really encourage everybody to really learn how to use it. How do you take your own skills and have it make you better? So in your case, you used it to help as an instructor. I think it's a great use of being an instructor because it's really good at research. It's really good at saying, hey, I know this thing, help me learn it, right? Or hey, I have this question about this thing. But you've got to make sure you're verifying it. Sources can be bad. Remember that 10% of everything comes back as a hallucination. You've just got to make sure you use it that way. And so in that kind of a case, sometimes it can actually make you go learn better because you're like, wait, that doesn't quite sound right. And that's what it should be doing.
Yeah, totally. So that was one of my, like, I'm not in school right now, but that was one of my first kind of educational stabs at it. And I was like, hey, like if I was struggling with a history test on the War of 1812, I think this is the first place I would go.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's great for that. And so I was watching one of my 17-year-old was, working on some schoolwork and he was using it exactly right, right? He wasn't being like, hey, ChatGPT, build me a paper. First of all, I wasn't using ChatGPT because I won't let my kids use it. I'll let them use Claude and Gemini and others, but I won't let them use ChatGPT. And so, but he did exactly what he should be doing. He said, "Hey, tell me about this." Da, 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 and he read about it. He was doing it, and it very easily fed him the data he needed. And then he turned around and wrote his paper, right? And that's the way you should be using it, right? To help as an assistant, not to have it doing the work for you.
Yeah, and I think it'll make the capable more capable, and it'll make the lesser capable less capable. Like, I don't think it's going to elevate a lower plane of people to a higher plane. I think you'll just continue to see a separation grow wider, actually. Your audio dropped. I don't know what happened. Huh. Was it me? Huh. I don't know why. I can't hear you anymore. Okay, yeah, I know. I don't. You good?
My
Okay.
amplifier dropped. Not really sure
Okay.
why, but my amplifier dropped.
I can hear you now. Well,
Cool.
I think that's kind of all we have time for today, but thank you guys so much for watching. And Starter Pack, if people want to learn how to code, where do they go? All good. All right. Well, hopefully next week we'll get our technical issues buttoned up here. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to learn how to code, go to starterpack.com. If you guys need to get somebody to help you with your technical issues, go to starterpack.com/Spencer. And if you like business, finance, anything related to that, you can head over to my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do you get your audio back, Starter Pack? Okay.
I may have for a
I think
second,
so.
but
I can hear you.
okay.
Sweet. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like always, consider subscribing. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.